Well, I guess we will go straight into Jono's talk because I think some of us have had problems with connections this morning. So Jono, would you like to begin? And over to you. If you'd like to share slides, unmute, and we'll go straight into your presentation. Looking forward to it.
Wonderful. Good to see you, Peter, and many thanks to you for kicking off the day, and to the National Academy of Science, Engineering, and Medicine for pulling everyone together. And thanks to everyone online. It's great to see some familiar names there. Thanks for being so engaged in the issue of One Health, but also what you do each day in your work. I'm sure the last year for all of us has been a very, very different experience, no matter what we're doing. So let me indeed share the screen. And what I was asked to talk about was a look into the future. And I thought there's no better way of looking into the future than to go into the future. And I'm particularly talking to the next generation who, for better or worse, are inheriting the present, which I think in many ways is better than our generation got it, but received it, but in other ways, much more challenging. So let's fast forward to the year 2035 and the pandemic that wasn't. And what I want to try to do here is illustrate the continuum of animal and human health and what we might expect. So what we've got going on in 2035 is ongoing routine zoonotic surveillance. We're using big data, we're using human data, we're using microbial data, health service data, data about climate change and other factors, vectors and animal data, plus artificial intelligence to really focus what you might call a geo-risk assessment. Where do we need to survey the most? We are looking to really have point of contact in the community, be able to do viral genomic surveillance and on this risk-based assessment, and have that surveillance happening for animals and humans who are particularly at risk. Now we're minus 30 days from the outbreak in 2035. So we're starting to see some patterns that are associated with transmission to humans. We've been able to really tie up the key genes and learn much more about how the genes boiling up in animals may affect humans. So we're going to start more, because we've seen a worrisome virus, we're going to start more intensive animal sequencing, looking for patterns associated with deadly strains. And we're also going to start more intensive human surveillance, particularly those in contact. So we're minus day 15, we're seeing increasing alert level. So we're going to be targeting again our testing and screening, dialing that up. We're going to give an early alert to the Global Genomic Surveillance Center, get it into their database, and get that out to national authorities to just get them on the ready. Clear assessment, no panic, but just get them on the ready. Day 0. So people in much bigger portion of the population than we have now. We're going to be having wearables. There's some really cheap, easy ones with privacy fully protected. So that individual is going to get a health alert, which will indicate in the community that there's something going on when there are a number of these. And here's the key. We were talking about this a couple of days ago with Jeremy Farrar at Wellcome. The astute clinician, whether we go back to Carlos Urbani with SARS or more recently Dr. Wu in China, it's that alertness. So that's going to ring the first bell, and we're going to get that genome sequenced and be sure we've got we've tied up this case with a new previously unknown strain. So day one, that sequence, because we've got this frontline sequence, it already goes into the global depository. So that gets around, again, the next sort of early alert. And the diagnostic and therapeutic people are already beginning to look at what might need to be done for humans and animals. Day 7, we're getting a pretty good bead that there's airborne transmission, and we're getting concerned at the beginning, at just even in this early phase, the spread. We're getting our first deaths and starting to see 7 days isn't an extended hospitalization, but we're seeing serious hospitalization. And we've already, based on the latest sort of even kind of 3D printing of diagnostic tests in a futuristic way, we're actually starting to get some tests available. Also, day 7, that's when in the areas of the outbreak, we're already starting to take action. And again, because of the speed of technology, we've got sort of lollipop home testing, getting that in the key areas on platforms that are already. We're getting the travel alerts out, the sort of thing that Peter and Echo Health Alliance, I think you call it Flickr or something like that. Get that out so we can already start doing point of entry screening, and particularly for that genome. It takes a little while. I mean, 7 days. We use all of the conventional stuff plus the new testing, and 60 days, probably earlier for therapeutics. We're getting vaccines. We're going to have a variety of methods that will give us accelerated safety and efficacy testing, really able to speed this process. And we'll be able, because of the manufacturing, then get some rapid deployment. And really, a bit like we did in the wrap up of smallpox with ring vaccination, we're going to have hotspot vaccination to really get things as soon as they appear in a place and get the tests and the vaccines out to folks. Ideally, even patch vaccines that would avoid all of the problem of needles and syringes and all that other stuff that we can. Those are some of the things that would help us scale. So that's day 60. So we've ramped up all of the usual public health measures. We've got vaccines, we've got therapeutics, and we're going full out. And day 100, last reported case. And shortly thereafter, the outbreak is declared over. So what this took was technology, data, big data, well used, and really good human responses. And the area that we're focusing on at Rockefeller is the data area. And the first 100 days, I mean, it is so clear that the die is cast in the first 100 days. It begins to get cast on day 1, 2, 3, and 4. Speed matters so much. This explosion, exponential growth. So getting it here, that's really, I mean, that'll be hugely life-saving and just a critical piece. So just a couple of things about the way we're at the Rockefeller Foundation thinking about this data and action platform and that piece of that rapid response. So really looking at the timetable, really looking at the critical actions and the responses, and saying, okay, how do we build the data that's and bring together the data that's needed for that? So that really comes down to robust data inputs, harvesting data and making it's real-time available publicly, finding ways to get past this kind of the ability of of governments, frankly, to not share all the data when needed, but also some novel sensors. You know, a frontline health worker with this, or a veterinary worker, or a forestry worker with a smartphone in one hand and a little packet of test strips in the other. So some novel sensors to get the data, really using the best of modern big data management and AI, and then really getting the insights with good scenario planning and what ifs. So the vision there is a global platform that'll become a leading force for amplifying warning signals, for containing the spread within the first 100 days, by getting the best information to those who are positioned to take action. And that would have a huge impact in reducing the human, social, and economic effect of pandemics. And we need to remember, pandemics kill three ways. The virus kills directly, the disruption of health services, if we can't separate the sick right away and keep the health services going, that kills as much. And economic disruption kills. We know that from the 2008 Great Recession. In Europe and North America alone, we lost an extra 250,000 people from cancer deaths. Not because there was a cancer epidemic, which there was, it was happening, but because of the economic disruption. So coming back to where I started, the next generation, a lot of what happened in those first 100 days just now probably seems impossible now, but I would urge folks to imagine the impossible and then make it happen. And just from my own years in global health, I can give you 3 examples. By 1950, Europe and North America had eradicated smallpox. The first director of the general of the World Health Association said, let's do for the rest of the world what we've done for Europe and North America. It took 15 years before the World Health Assembly voted to eradicate smallpox, and then they did it within a decade. But there were people in decision roles who really thought it was impossible because they thought you had to immunize everyone on the planet. AIDS, in the year 2000, by 2000, 20 years in AIDS, we're at the point where in Europe and North America, AIDS was a chronic disease, with people living almost as long with AIDS as without it. The head of one of the major development agencies was asked about treatment in Africa. He says, I don't think that's possible. We're going to focus on prevention. A decade later, there were 10 million people on treatment in Africa. SARS, first coronavirus to go global. In March of 2003, the head of a national infectious disease agency was in Hong Kong and said, can you imagine eliminating SARS by June? And he said, I don't think so. I can't imagine that. And by July, it was gone and hasn't come back. And finally, if you think of where we were a year ago on COVID-19 vaccines, maybe we could expect 3 or 4, maybe 50% effective. We've got 8 approved or in late stages, most over 70% effective. As of today, more than 200 doses delivered and administered in 99 countries. So in each case, people imagined the impossible and then made it happen. So I would just urge us to think of the future. And what's really exciting for the next gen folks is you're in a position to build that future. So many thanks. And do I head back to you, Peter? Or do I head, back to the moderator in the sky?
Jono, thanks very much, Jonathan Quick from Rockefeller. Superb vision of the future.